4th and 6th. What has happened to your campaign?
This has become a very competitive race, and I always expected it would be a very competitive race. And I believe that I'm going to have the same fate that the New York Giants had last week, and we're going to come from behind and surprise everyone. We have them all lulled into a very false sense of security now. We're going to... When Mitt Romney asked me a question, notice he asked me a very nice question. So I think I lulled him into a false sense of security. And we are going to come from behind. We're going to win here in Florida. And if you look at the races that are coming up after that, I think we're in good shape. You know, these are terrific candidates. They're all running very, very good races. I always expected it would be very close. And I think as it all got down to it, everyone is going to have a chance. And I think we're going to do very well here in Florida. And I think we're going to do very well on February 5th. And I believe that I'll get the nomination.
Senator McCain, next question to you. In an interview with our friend Steve Scully over at C-SPAN, your mother, who has come up in the campaign once or twice at the age of 95, your mother, Roberta, said that the Republican Party is going to have to, quote, hold its nose and pick you, her son, as the nominee. In all seriousness, and moms get a special exemption, it's a notable quote because she expresses a view you hear around the GOP because you haven't voted with your party on some core stances like taxes and judges and immigration and campaign reform. How do you expect to unite a party behind you?
In all due respect, Brian, I love the way you throw all those together. I'm so proud of my record on judges that those of us who got together and got Justice Alito and Roberts and so many judges together, and I won't go list by list there, but point by point. But look, I won the majority of Republican vote in both New Hampshire and South Carolina. Most conservative Republicans' major concern is the threat of radical Islamic extremism. I'm making my case that I can make America safe and safer, I can restore trust and confidence, and that I can make the needed changes to have the fundamentals of our economy, which are still strong, bring us through this difficult times. Conservative Republicans are also concerned about climate change that we just mentioned because of their belief in their stewardship of this planet and our stewardship. There's many people who are concerned and have a priority, the independence of the state of Israel. They know that I know how to keep Israel independent as well. So I'm proud of the broad base of support. I will continue to work in every way to show people that I have a very, very conservative record. I'm proud to be a conservative. But there are times, like when Rumsfeld's strategy was going wrong, I was criticized by Republicans. When I opposed the bridge to nowhere, that was a Republican policy. When I went after Jack Abramoff, there were people who were Republicans who suffered from that. When I saved the taxpayer $6 billion in a bogus tanker deal, that was a Republican policy deal there. So there are times, and the reason why I have such strong support amongst independents is because they know that I'll put my country above my party every single time, and I'm proud to be a conservative.
Senator, thank you. Tim?
Governor Romney, as has become apparent over the last few weeks, if Hillary Clinton is the Democratic nominee, she'll be running as a team with her husband. Specifically, how would you run against Hillary and Bill Clinton in November?
I frankly can't wait because the idea of Bill Clinton back in the White House with nothing to do is something I just can't imagine. I can't imagine the American people can imagine. And I...
What does that mean?
I just think that we want to have a president, not a team of husband and wife thinking that they're going to run the country. And instead, you want to elect a president, but I'm not going to run on the basis of Bill Clinton. If Hillary Clinton is the nominee, it's going to be Hillary Clinton. It's going to be her position and her postures on a whole series of issues, and frankly, she is so out of step with the American people on everything from taxes. She wants to raise taxes. She has a plan for health care. Her health care plan, quite simply, is one which says, look, we're going to give health insurance to everybody by the government. It's going to cost $110 billion more every single year. $1 trillion+ over 10 years. Her approach to the war in Iraq, just get out as fast as you can. Just don't even think about the sacrifice that's been made or the need to keep al-Qaeda from establishing safe havens. She is exactly what's wrong in Washington. I said before, Washington is broken. She is Washington to the core. She's been there too long. Bill Clinton's been there too long. The last thing America needs is sending the Clintons back to Washington. Look, sending the same people back to Washington, expecting a different result, is not going to get America on track. And I'm going to make sure that we strengthen this country, and we do it the old-fashioned Republican way, the Ronald Reagan way of pulling together economic conservatives, social conservatives, and foreign policy, national defense conservatives. I speak to those three groups. I will pull them together. That's how we'll win the election, and that's also how we're going to keep the country strong and vibrant.
Another quick question. People observing this race in Florida have been somewhat amazed by the number of television ads you've been running. Can you tell the voters of Florida and Republicans across the country how much of your own money have you spent on this race so far?
In Florida, we'll report that on the 31st of January as required by law, and probably not a minute earlier. You'll just have to wait, Tim.
But why not tell the voters of Florida and across the country how much of your own wealth you're spending so they can make a judgment and factor that into their own decision?
Well, I'm not concerned about the voters. I'm much more concerned about the other guys on the stage. And we have some competitive information we make sure that we use for our own benefit. But I can tell you this. I have raised more money than any other Republican in this race. Raised more. Friends of mine have come together, people I knew in high school, and helped raise money for me. So I've raised more money. And I've also made a very substantial contribution. Not as much, by the way, as John Corzine did to become governor of New Jersey. Not as much as Steve Forbes did when he ran back some years ago. Certainly not as much as Mayor Bloomberg did in his race, but I made a substantial contribution. I can't imagine having gone to my friends and asked them to do what they've done, going out and raising money on my behalf, without saying I'm going to put some of my contribution behind this effort as well, because frankly, I think it's important. And one thing's real clear. Given the contribution I made in this race, I know I owe no one anything. I don't have some group there that I have a special obligation to that raised money for me. I'm by far the biggest contributor to my own campaign. And people can count on the fact that there's nobody that can call me and say, hey, look, you owe me, because they don't. I'm in this race because I want to make a difference for America.
Governor, immune from criticism that you're trying to buy the state of Florida or buy the nomination?
You know, this is always raised anytime someone makes a contribution to their own campaign. And the answer is I care very deeply about this. I've been successful in life enough to be able to save enough money. And I'm using that money in a campaign for presidency to try and change this country. I'm concerned about the America my kids will inherit. And their kids will inherit, and the kids of the entire nation will inherit. And I want to make sure that we have a strong and vibrant nation. And I happen to think that at a time like this, we need someone whose life has been in the private sector, who knows how America works, not just how Washington works, but how America works. Governor, and for that reason, I'm giving it my all.
Governor, we've got an NBC News Wall Street Journal poll coming out in the morning. It says, among a lot of other things, 44% of respondents say a Mormon president would have a difficult time uniting the country. And I know you've answered similar questions about what you were able to do with the Catholic vote in Massachusetts, but 44% nationally, writ large, is a large number.
You know, I just don't believe that people in this country are going to choose their candidate based on which church he or she goes to. I just don't believe that. And, you know, polls ask people a lot of questions, and my faith isn't terribly well known around this country, but I don't think for a minute the American people are going to say, you know what, we're not going to vote for this guy for a secular position because of his church. I just don't believe it. I think when the Constitution and the founders said no religious test shall ever be required for qualification for office or public trust in these United States, that the founders meant just that. And I don't believe for a minute that Republicans or Americans, for that matter, are going to impose a religious test when the founders said it's as un-American as anything you can think of. And so I believe that I'll ultimately get the nomination. I can't be sure of that, but I'm pretty confident. And I believe in a head-to-head with Hillary Clinton, the differences in our perspectives on how to get America going again and how to get us on the right track are as different as night and day. She takes her inspiration from the Europe of old, big brother, big government, big taxes. I take mine from Republican ideals, small government, small taxes, individual freedom. I believe that free American people are the source of America's greatness. And so I don't think you're going to see religion figuring into this race after people have had a chance to get to know all the candidates.
Dr. Paul, Congressman Paul, I'd like to talk about Social Security. The last time you ran for president and Libertarian Party candidate, you filled out a questionnaire asking about Social Security, and you said, quote, abolish it. There are 3.5 million people in Florida who rely on Social Security payments. Are you still in favor of abolishing Social Security?